we are this is the outtakes version of Talking Sports. I'm Greg Selber, this is Pete Pettis. We're back with you after a couple of weeks of absence. It's not as if we haven't been doing our thing, it's just that we haven't been able to get to you on the web. So here we are back.
We're back, and obviously I took a little road trip, but
road trip.
Had a great time, saw a football game, that was cool. The Bucks.
Is that right? A pro football game, boy, that's something else.
You know, I've been to a few pro football games, but that one was definitely, theme-wise, that was the best with that big pirate ship in the end zone.
No, do they still play in what used to be called Raymond James Stadium? As Berman used to call it, the Big Sombrero.
Yeah, no, they still play there. It's a nice stadium. I mean, like I said, the pirate ship is what makes it.
And the Bucks are winning.
Yeah.
They lost what? They started 0-7 or some such, you know?
They've 2 in a row.
I cannot figure out the NFL, and if anybody can, then believe me, you'll be a genius. We can figure out
whoever tells you they figured out the NFL is totally lying to you.
Right, they're not betting the NFL.
No, they're totally lying to you because it's an up and down season altogether. But
who's going to win the Super Bowl? The Seahawks?
That
would be crazy.
I would say New Orleans, but
the Saints.
That's my pick.
Who dat?
Yeah,
Saints
exactly.
Indeed. Well, we can figure out the high school pairings because we got 10 teams in the Valley left. It's gotten down to that to the second week. We had a tough week on the sub 5As, but we got a couple of 5A matchups going to be pretty good.
We have a couple of rematches that are coming up that have been looming pretty much
all year.
All year, yeah. I mean, you've been trying to figure out, I mean, as much as you would hate to say it, but as soon as Edinburg North, as soon as the Bird Bowl and then Edinburg North Sharyland, you knew it was going to be
Harlingen City, man.
Yeah, it was a 42-2 debacle last
42
year.
42 to 2.
In the rain, but last year has nothing to do with this year.
Only in terms of revenge factor for the Cardinals.
Sure.
But the teams are different. I think Harlingen's gotten a bit better than they were last year. They're 8-4, now they're 10-1. I think Sharyland at 11-0 once again is a fine team, and I don't feel like they're going to go in there and lose. But I feel like they're probably not quite as good, especially with the injury to Diego. That really worries me because now what you have is Lance Madden, who's a great athlete and quarterback, but then you have one less receiver because Lance was really, to me, very effective too as a receiver. He could go up and get that ball. He can run.
Greg, we sat here and we talked about how was the defense going to step up against Edinburg North.
And it did.
And it did.
123.
And I really think that defensive line, that's going to be the matchup to watch right there. The two lines go at it.
Yeah.
I think that defensive line can get a step in. If they can get a step in inside of Brandon's face, I mean, it should be a good game.
It's hard to get pressure on him. And when you do, he tends to run out of the pocket and complete passes. But see, Sharyland's got a lot of speed on the perimeter, so he may not be able to throw on the run like that. I agree with you, and that's what the Harlingen kids were saying after that game against Memorial, which we'll get to in a minute. They were saying that the key to the game will be in the trenches, the offensive line, the defensive line, and it should be a great game. I feel like it definitely won't be 42-2 anyway. I think it'll come down to the last couple of minutes of the ball game. If Harlingen plays like they did against Memorial, it's going to be tough because they play at home. Sharyland's got to travel, so there's some things up against them. Diego's injury and playing on the road.
It's definitely an uphill battle, but I mean,
it's the number one team. Why is here? Answer me this. And you're wearing a red shirt, so. How is, and then maybe I'm guilty of this too, how is everyone so up in arms and going crazy about Harlingen when Sharyland is the number one team? They're unbeaten. Harlingen is not unbeaten. Exactly. What does it mean?
I think it comes with the tradition that Harlingen has. Yeah. I mean, you seem to hear it in the media a lot more. And don't get me wrong, lately you've been hearing Sharyland a lot.
The new Harlingen.
And because, to be quite frank, I mean, an example today, I went to a signing, and they don't do signings like, okay, we're having this kid. They do signings in pairs, in 3 people at a time.
Remember, like North, at 6 people at once.
Exactly.
You have the whole line.
They have a lot of talent at that school, and it's becoming a program they're becoming a dynasty.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? I get an email from the athletic director that says we won 18 district titles last year. That's a lot of district titles.
Sure it is.
You know what I mean?
That's
so
incredible.
I don't know.
Both teams have tradition on their side. Now the Cardinals, of course, last year when they went 8-4, lost to Sharyland area. That was the first time in 5 years they hadn't gone 3D. So they're anxious to get back to that level. I feel like they can because they also ran the ball for 237 against Memorial. They just came out and scored and executed and gave Memorial no quarter, man. 27-0, one play into the second.
The stat I liked the most on Harlingen from last week was their defense, on how they only allowed Trevor, the amount of yards that he got was what, 140?
140, he had a 65-yard run, so there's about half of it. He had one for 22, one for 25. Other than that, it was like 40 on 15 carries. They stopped him.
When you can stop a player like that, I mean, let's face it, he's D1.
Oh, he's the best.
You know what I mean? So when you can stop somebody like that, that's that's kudos to your defense. But
It's a different. Go ahead.
but Sharyland's defense has been underrated all year.
And underrate them at your own risk because we found out what happened.
And they perform at a high level, and it's just going to come down. Something's got to give. It was just like, something had to give between the Chiefs and the Broncos, and you saw professionally what Peyton Manning could do.
That's right.
You know what I mean? That's what that game's going to boil down to.
Both teams face a different challenge than they did in their previous big games. Okay, so Harlingen against South, they had to shut down a balanced offense. Now they got to shut down an offense in Sharyland that is balanced too, but runs different type plays. Okay, it's not going to line up with setbacks. It's going to run more of a classic spread. Yeah. On the other hand, Sharyland's got to deal with a team kind of like itself. In fact, I think these teams are a lot alike.
No, they really are.
You know what Manny Gomez said? We like to spread the field because then you can run. So I think both teams, whoever spreads the field, will probably win. And whatever defense does not allow the other team to spread the field. So I think you're right. It comes down to defense. Who's going to be tougher? It's the best game of the year. Absolutely.
Who's going to return one?
This is true. It's going to be Harris. He had a fumble return.
That might be a playmaker right there.
Harlingen's got their share of return guys, but I think Sharyland is superior on special teams return-wise if Sean Landez is healthy. Because he had kind of some lingering things. Now, in terms of cover, and kick block, there's no better team than Harlingen. We called them the Virginia Tech of the Valley for 10 years because they'll block a kick, they'll run one back, they'll this and that. They won't let you run one back. So, yeah, that's an undercurrent of a battle that's really exciting.
Regardless of what happens, I'm sure it's going to be a great game. I mean,
we get one moving on in the third round either way. So it's Valley against Valley.
Yeah, and it's going to be thinning out here soon.
Darn right, it is. Thinning out, he says.
So
the other one though,
at Cats, we've got another rematch.
Friday night.
Friday night. Hawks and Cougars.
I feel like just like the game we just talked about, the Harlingen team has an edge. The South scored 42 points against East. They scored 58 against Los Fresnos. Their last game of the season. Everything is clicking right along. To me, they got the most balanced offense in the Valley.
Taylor had 5 touchdowns.
Exactly. And they still threw the ball well, 7 out of 10. See, here's the deal. Harlingen and Sharyland throw first teams, but they'll run some. North is a run first team, they'll throw some. South has the most balanced 5A offense because they can do it all very well. Playmakers. Sure. Their offensive line, to me, is the least great of the 4. And that's where I think North has a chance to equalize the game. They're going to be playing without David Ansaldo on offense. They're going to be fighting uphill a little bit. But the bottom line is their defense should be good enough to hang in that game.
I think their defense will be able to hang in that game. But like you were saying, it comes down to that O-line. How is Matt Whiteside's going to get through there? You know what I mean?
He may have to lead block for Adrian because you know what? Well, here's what they do. North has now gone to what I call the bull backfield. That's what the Rams used in the late 40s and early 50s. Looked up Deacon Dan Towler and others. And so what they do is they put 2 big kids as blocking backs or H-backs, and so that's in lieu of a line that can move out as well as it could. Here's the thing. Sometimes they lead block and they crush out a hole and the guy runs for a touchdown. The problem with a backfield like that occasionally is that you end up with a whole jumble of tacklers and blockers and the back has nowhere to go. So them 2 big kids got to hit somebody because if they don't, they're just going to be standing there and here's guys, So I like the idea. I think they need to come out and be turnover free and penalty free. They did not play well against Eagle Pass. Coach Roy Goddesso would be the first one to admit that. And yet, you know what? Here they are. He doesn't ever get too rattled, man. That guy's been there before.
I mean, come on, they went 3 deep last year. I mean,
this will be their 3rd time.
Exactly. If they do it.
They got the defensive kids back, and that helped.
That really does. And so now you just got to go in there and just play your game. I mean, you're down a man, because
a great man.
Yeah,
he's a D1 guy.
You really are. You're like, man, that's a big loss. But there's nothing you can do about it. You might as well just go in there and get after it.
Hey, Enrique is a kid's name that's going to fill in. What if he has a great game? He may have been waiting for his chance. He's gotten some playing time too. So here's the deal. They always have pretty good depth on the offensive line. You lose a player like that, obviously, it's tough. But you're right. They just got to do what they do. And here's another thing that I would add. And of course, this is my 2 cents, right? 2 pesos. They shouldn't think that they can't throw the ball. Because Alex Gadetto, he started the game with a touchdown. Of course, it was a catch and run. But see, the thing is, if you eliminate that in your mind as something that we can do, you have to believe that you can throw the ball. Not 25 times, but because you need to have as much balance as possible.
Sure.
Because they may not be able to run as well as they had been when they have David. So, and I've always thought that Alex Gadetto is a competent quarterback. Now is his chance to be the player of the week and have a manageable game where he makes some good plays, and they can win that game. At home, I still feel like they're a 3-point underdog without David, and given the fact that they didn't really play well in by district, and South, on the other hand, beat a very good East team handily.
Yeah. I saw East a couple of times, and
they're solid.
They were solid, but they weren't balanced. So
right. they couldn't throw it either.
Exactly. So I don't know. Cat Stadium's going to be loud.
Oh, it's going to be a great atmosphere.
It really is.
That should hopefully even out the odds a little bit. You know, and the other good thing is that North has been here before, and by the way, against South last year.
Exactly.
See, that was North's type of game last year in the rain, because they're physically a tougher team. And I think this year they are a physically tougher team. They're going to have to ride that defense.
Harlingen South's more finesse.
Yes, they are, and they're not. The defense is pretty hard hitting, but they're not huge. The offense, I was never, like I said, the offensive line is somewhat small for Harlingen South, and so they haven't played a defense. They think they played a defense in Harlingen that's the best in the valley, but the one that stands right next to them is Edinburg North, and they're going to find out. So it ain't going to be as easy as all that. If Taylor gets 216 against Edinburg North, then shoot, he's a first-team All-Valley, and he may.
That would be totally amazing because that's a really stout D in Edinburg North, and if he
everybody's back now.
If he's able to do that, I mean Edinburg North fell asleep. There's just no other way around it.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, you know, the only game they lost all year was because their defense tired out. The offense couldn't move the ball, and so Sharyland wore them out, and they took them down. They won the district title that way. So Edinburg North now has to make sure that they keep the ball, or at least score, and get ahead, make some drives, and play keep away. And they're usually pretty good at that. I'm talking about all the way back to 07 when they had Oscar, the big kid from Monterrey, the fullback. And Adriana. They've always been pretty good at keeping the ball and not letting you have it. So if they do that again, I think they can beat South. But South is a very good football team. Absolutely.
we'll see what happens. Is to say the least. I mean,
it's the best. Why wouldn't you want to get that game?
This is the round right here, man.
But Harlingen plays at the same time, dude.
I know. That's.
I want to clone me like Dolly the sheep, so
it would have been cool to be Friday, Saturday, but.
Well, Saturday though we got Port Isabel up in Kingsville, and I've been predicting all week that it will be a difficult muster for the Tarpons. I do not think they're going to lose per se, but I'm really worried that Orange Grove is the best team they've had in almost ever, man.
In this round, I don't know, man. Port Isabel, they just seem to make the run though. I mean, what else?
Talk about tradition.
Yeah.
Earlier we talked about Harlingen and Sharyland.
Well, we get away with the small schools. We really don't touch on them. We just talk about the big schools. But yeah, man, all they do is go deep.
I know.
And you're just like,
I'll tell you,
just waiting for that one title that's coming up.
It was close. And the two times they got the closest, 94 and 03, they beat Orange Grove in the playoffs. So maybe that coincidence is lining up.
Maybe, I don't know.
I feel like Port Isabel has as good a team as it's ever had. Like when they went way deep back in the day, they had a guy named Donald Guillot who was a quarterback. He played for Pan Am Baseball. He was an amazing player. The guy they have now, Martinez, he's not physically as dominant as Donald was, but he really definitely is a gamer. He just knows how to win. And they got some size. PI has some big kids for 3A, man. They're not going to... No, Orange Grove has size. They got a 220-pound guy. His name is Wallace. Cody Wallace, I believe. That's a big kid. But Miguel Ramirez is huge. Mark Benavides weighs 300 pounds. I think they're not going to be intimidated. Guillot weighs 240. So in other words, most 3A teams look like tiny little ants on film. PI is not that small, man.
That's cool. Yeah. So I don't know. Long story short, we're in the mix of it.
We're in the playoff mode, man. Second round.
Yeah.
Well, let's quickly run down.
You've seen basketball.
I've seen basketball.
You've seen basketball. I haven't gone out. I'm going to a game tonight, but.
Are you?
Yeah, I think I'm going to check out Memorial and Sharyland.
On the boys?
Yeah.
Well, Memorial, now they get some of those kids back. They got that big Gabe Myers. Let's see what he does against De La Torre. He had 34 points for Sharyland the other night. Remember I told you about that guy last year? He's an all-valley player. I have seen Vela. Vela beat PSGA by 9 on the road. It was a pretty solid win. Then Vela turned around, or PSGA turned around and won the ACAS tournament. So it was a good win. It's a quality win if you're looking at resumes. Yeah. Vela's coming, man. They're going to be all right.
They had an MVP on that one, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they got Mancias. That guy's amazing. He looks like someone off of High School Musical, with the hair. He's an incredible player. No, I think that Vela has a chance to win that district. I don't know if they really understand that yet because, a young team still learning how to win, but they got a lot of talent. They got big, tall, long kids who can run, and the wild card is this dude, Eli Pettis. All right, you remember Noe Espedicueta?
Sure.
This guy's about the same size, bears a resemblance to him, can run and jump. Not quite as good as, because Noe was tough. But this guy was surprising me with post moves and left-handed and passing. He's just one of 9 or 10 guys. Lalo can play 10 or 12, and he probably will. So I like Vela so far. I'm going to see the North girls tonight. I saw the EHS girls. They beat PSJ on a buzzer beater by Chelsea Cortez, number 13. They're going to be a scrappy defensive team, and they're going to be guard-oriented until some of the new bigs get the hang of it. Because, let's face it, it's the post-Mitch era, man. Mercelita is gone, and so that's a big absence. She was a great player. God, I love to watch her.
All Valley, player
every year. And Eileen Martinez, too. So they've got some kids back who played last year. J.D. Salinas, his first year as a coach last year, he took them to the district title. They came out of kind of nowhere and won the title, man. They were tough. I feel like they're going to be competitive. And don't sleep on the Lady Jags because they look good in the summer. If you remember, we talked about them. That sophomore, and then they got the little kid back as a point guard. They got Noemi. They got some players, man. They got Celeste. So I feel like they're going to be pretty big. And they may have more depth than they've had in the past. And they got a new coaching regime over there. So I'm looking forward to basketball. Haven't said much about Edinburg North boys yet, but I feel like why wouldn't they be one of the best teams in the Valley? We weren't able to arrange the kickoff classic or the tip-off classic, but next year we're going to find some sponsors and put the two best teams in the Valley. Or maybe, here's what we'll do. We'll put the two best teams, one from Edinburg, one from that county. It don't matter who they are. I mean, it might be Rowan North. It might be, who knows.
Somebody else.
It might be Edinburg Quest. No,
Which,
can you imagine?
Hey, they might be.
Only takes 5, man. We saw Hoosier.
Yeah.
So basketball will get going. The tournament's in McAllen this weekend. I think the Diamondback is still 2 weeks to get away in Sharyland. So Sharyland girls off to kind of a rocky start. They started well. They lost in the tournament over the weekend to Rio Hondo and Roma. But let me tell you something. In basketball, that's not a shame because both of those sub-5A teams have good programs.
Yeah.
The Rhodes sisters for Roma are tough. And that other squad, man, Rio Hondo is one of the best teams in the Valley, man. I mean, for a 3A team, they're tough.
There you go.
Very tough.
I mean, we're still at the beginning.
I'm just trying to learn all the players, man. I'm like, the other day the manager had Ariel Rocha instead of Rodriguez for Vela. I'm like, is that someone new? Do they call her up? I'm like, what the hell? But it ended up being her.
You'll get confused, I'm sure.
Oh, well, what we got to do is make sure, and this is what we always do, make sure that each team and each school and program have an ample amount of preview and coverage and whatnot. So if you feel like we haven't gotten out to your game in a while, it's probably because the home schedule didn't work out or one of us had some weird thing to go do. We will serve all comers. Yeah. I make it a point with my writing to see that every team and program and coach gets to share a limelight because I don't want anybody feeling like I'm favoring anybody else because I do not do that.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not like that. I mean, yeah, we get out. We're objective. I mean, we root for certain people when you can, but it's only
compelling stories.
It is. You get caught up in the mix. We're gonna get out of here before this happens.
We're trying to because the camera is wanting us to go away. I feel like we're being ruled by technology, like in 2001. I can't do that, Dave.
But we can do that, and we're gonna go watch football this weekend. So get out there, have fun, and root for your favorite team.
And you can do this, yeah. That's what you do.